much in communicating and not just like it's about Youth for Christ,
Right.
it's not about the school district, it's not about this other organization, it's about all of us coming together as one to help our youth, our future, not just one organization,
Right.
but everybody coming together.
Right.
So what are some of these activities
Yeah.
that you do with the juvenile?
Yeah. So the juveniles, so right now, a lot of it is focused on spiritual formation, mind, body, soul.
Mind,
And
body,
so like Mr. C, with the school, you focus so much on the mind. You also bring the soul care. And there's also the body element. I think it's like, this is like the mind, body, soul kind of element.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is soul care. They have times that they're sweating physically. But there are times when there needs to be tears. And it's not the manipulation tears. It's your soul sweating, if that makes sense. So your soul sweating. And there are times when these young people, when they hear God's word, or when they're reading an author that speaks to their heart, that comes from the same background. That's why, Mr. C, you have to write a book. Okay? Because they have to, when they read these stories, they're like, I see myself. And then they get emotional. We process it with them. So spiritual direction. But then we also want to provide for them when they get out, just some necessities. And so I was just talking to you, we provide hygiene kits and even small things that they might need to get back on their feet.
So when they get out from the institutional system of law enforcement, do you follow up with them? Are there opportunities for them?
Yeah, we try to be matched while they're in the facility, because it's really hard to follow these young people. When they leave the facility, it is so difficult, because a lot of times they just want to run away.
Yes.
And so we are not a bounty hunter. we are about building relationships. And so we provide them ways that they can reach out to us, but we love making the mentor match happen at the facility. And so these young people are saying, I've got these 5 goals or 3 goals. And so we help them achieve those goals. Give you an example. Like my wife is working with a young lady that left the state facility. She has an 11-month-old baby, and she's applying to Kansas City, Kansas Community College. She had no idea that there was about $7,000 to $8,000 worth of scholarship money that was available for her. And we were help her to apply. She's still calling my wife almost every day. She's 3 months till she starts class, but she's calling my wife because she's scared. She's scared because she thinks that she's going to sabotage this story. And this is what we have to tell them. Even if you do, we still are going to be with you. Does that make sense?
Oh, makes sense.
We're not going to leave you because you're not performing right.
Yeah, because that's one of the issues that I see is that it's kind of like when somebody says, "I believe in the sanctity of life." I hear this all the time. And again, I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah.
But once you come out of your mother's womb, you are on your own. I see that all the time. And this is regardless of race and cultural background. Woo! And I'm let me tell you something. I'm a blessed man to be here in this country. Very blessed. And sometimes I get very emotional and I get teary eyes, and I come from my stepdad who raised my dad. My dad, my biological father, was not in my life. And I grew up in a country where if you don't have 2 last names, they know that you were born out of wedlock. Such is my case. And that's hard. I mean, I can spend hours talking about this. We live in a country that had this cornucopia of abundance. So much so that when I tell people that going to McDonald's every day for me, when I came to the US at the age of 18, going to eat a hamburger was like, I made it. I made it. I can eat a hamburger every day. Like I never ate a New York steak or a case strip or a prime rib steak or
barbecue ribs.
Until I came to the US. because growing up very
Poor, right.
growing up very poor. And I don't say this, to for anybody to lament or feel sorry for me. No. And that's one of the problems I have, is that once the youth lives the juvenile system, what happens to them? Because we know one thing, and my experience as a law enforcement tells me that between the ages of 14 to 25, that those ages right there are the ones responsible for most of the crime that takes place in the United States.
And I think, Mr. C, you see this, but if they don't have a positive influence, especially young boys, they don't have a positive male influence, they're going to go back to their muscle memory.
Yes.
And that is the idea of surviving no matter what. And the thriving happens when you have a coach, have a mentor, have like a Mr. C, or I'm grateful, a Mr. A in their life. And the other 45 volunteers that we have, is that to know that you're not alone and that God's not done with you. Because for so many of them, they believe the lies. Like they are a mistake. And I say to them, God doesn't have time for mistakes. Everything has a reason.
Yes.
Like we're sitting in these chairs, and they were designed for a reason to hold us up. So if these chairs have reason, you have a reason.
Yes. One thing about the juveniles, once they get released from jail, we can't find them.
Right.
They're hard to be found.
Right.
Because they go back to what they know.
Right.
Where they feel comfortable. 99.9% of people that go to jail, they're incarcerated, the first thing that they turn to is God. Number one, because you find yourself surrounded by four walls, alone by yourself. God, please help me. I want to go home, tell the judge. And they do listen a lot because they need something. I've experienced this all the time. But once they leave those walls, they forget about all that, how they were feeling inside, So they go back to what they know, And it is very hard to change that, turn the switch off and on, and to start new again.
Right.
It is possible, but it's very hard. That's why, part of the failure rate is so high.
Right.
But for a fact, we can't give up.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's amazing for us. Like, some people ask me why we live where we live, and we live kind of in the urban core of KCK. But a lot of it is because what's funny. Just give me an example. We were just my three boys and my wife we were driving in our neighborhood, and there was a stop sign, and I put my son's sticker. It's a sticker with the bunny rabbit and everything on the stop sign. And my wife knows why I put the sticker on the stop sign. Why I put the sticker on the stop sign was to cover the bullet hole. But for my son, he thought of so much joy. Daddy put the sticker on the stop sign because I want the other kid that's walking past that stop sign not to see the bullet hole. I want them to see the bunny sticker. Does that make sense? Yes. And it's when your trash becomes my trash. And what I mean, not people, I mean physical stuff like that, like those markers, the graffiti, the things that can be demoralizing, that we can say, hey, enough is enough. I'm going to do something small, like a bunny sticker, right? But it's these small things that communities can do that we can't rely on government to solve everything, but we can be a good neighbor. You know what I'm saying?
My stepfather, he was born and raised in Messina, Sicily.
Oh, wow.
He was born, but he was actually raised in Libya.
Okay.
He's Italian.
Oh my gosh.
It's a long story.
Yeah.
And, but my stepfather was one of his people that he will tell me, you can be poor, but you don't have to be filthy. Or you don't have to be a criminal.
Right.
You always have to push forward. But I was lucky to have him in my life.
Yeah.
Because he was much older than my mom. And he was a man of discipline. He never laid a hand on me.
Yeah.
But he was a very well disciplined man. And you mentioned this in the very beginning, the absence of the father figure. And the father that, in spite of the fact that he is in the urban core of the city, is getting up in the morning and he's going to work to provide.
And we see that in Wyandotte County. Unlike other communities, it's amazing on my street. And that's why when I first moved to Kansas City, Missouri, I'm not judging Kansas City, Missouri, but when we moved over to Kansas City, Kansas side, it was the first time that I saw a family pushing a stroller. Like, I had not seen that in the urban core of Kansas City, Missouri, but even in the urban core of Wyandotte County, I see that. I see fathers, getting up early to get on their jobs, to go to La Chiquita Burrito, or to go to get there early, right when they open, so they can get their food to go on their adventure for the day, and then come back late at night. And I see that, and it makes me proud to be to have my kids be original dots, is that they finally can see it, even in the toughest places of Wyandotte County.
In my experience here with the youth, I can see that a lot of them don't have a vision for their future. And I can relate to that. A lot of them believe that they will not get to see 18 years old because of their lifestyle. They're lucky to see 21.
Right.
And they're blessed to go beyond that. And I know you experience that by talking to them. Do you think that we could make a difference in their lives? Do you think that, or what do you think we should be doing differently based on your experience with them?
You know what? I really believe that if you are an employer in Wyandotte County, you should you should take a chance on a young person, especially a young person that needs a second chance. And you might be surprised of how hard they work because they haven't been given a chance like that, especially if you're a teacher. What I mean, an employer that likes to teach them, work alongside them. It is powerful. Opportunities. They don't have enough opportunities in our community. And their opportunities are really far away. The jobs are really far away. And so if you think about where some of our zip codes that are notorious for the wrong reasons, if we could think about ways to begin providing some opportunities, even if there's a way that we can help transport them, bring them over. So I think that would be a great opportunity. And also volunteer is, if you've never been in a detention center, or if you're a teen parent, you were a teen parent and you want to give back, please reach out to us at Youth for Christ in Kansas City.
Okay. We'll make sure that he leaves a number that you can call,
Correct. Because one of the problems that we have, and this is not something that is coming out of my head. There's statistics, proven statistics by the federal government that we have a recidivism problem in this country.
Right.
80 to 90.
Can you define recidivism for those that don't know?
Basically, you have a circle, and the person starts right here, and he just continues to walk within this vicious circle.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. And it's like a labyrinth, right? And he continues to go and return to
prison
to prison over and over. And between 80 to 90, even perhaps more, higher numbers of people that are going back through the system. And once you are marked, once you have that seal in your record, that you are now a convicted felon, you're pretty much done with the society.
Like, it's hard to find employment, but let alone you can't own a home. You can't, in certain areas, you can't vote. And so you're marked. But there's people that can see beyond that and see your heart.
Correct.
And I think that's the key.
And I can testify from my own experience. When I started volunteering at JDC in 2007, I had my own business, my own flooring business, and I actually employed juveniles from the facility when they were released. And they were rival gang members working together. Number one, I will tell them, such and such is working with me. Can you work alongside this person without, fighting or
having a feud?
So, they respected the fact that I was upfront with them.
Yeah.
Never had any problems.
That's the heart of a teacher. Like, I think even employers, if we think about more than just we are employing them, but we are teaching them life lessons, values. It doesn't take a lot of time. Just give them the expectations.
Yeah.
And then they have to make the choice, right? But I love that approach, because a lot of employers, what they do is they put you through orientation and they think that's enough. It's a constant reminder why you're here, why we're doing this. Do you have any issues? So they can talk with you, you know?
So it's based on what you're telling me, is it about discipline, responsibility, accountability on the part of both the youth who has gone through the system and also the person that hopefully will help this youth?
And Mr. C, you're the veteran, and all I can say is that it's hard to do what is right when you have not seen it in the flesh. And so we can't expect anything from a young person if they have not spent time with the real thing. So for so many of us, we've spent time with counterfeit people. And the real thing, I always give this story, is how does, I don't know if this is even a myth, okay, but let me just share this story. It is, the federal government has specialists, counterfeit specialists.
Yes.
And how do they spend their time, the counterfeit specialists? They never spend time with fake money. So whenever fake money passes through them, they've only been with the real thing. So that's how they can sense it immediately. And for so many of our kids, they don't even know what right really looks like. And I think, Mr. C, you got to add to that question, but there's a depth to that question that can't be answered simply. So complex, but I just want to point to that counterfeit versus real.
You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. You know, not being in someone's shoes, you don't know what it feels like to walk on them. You know, a lot of these kids, well, number one, they will not open up to you if they feel like, oh, you're fake. No, you're.
Yep.
But when they see that you can actually understand them and relate to them, they will listen, because there's a connection. There is a sense of like understanding. He knows where I'm coming from. She knows where I'm coming from, and I'm gonna listen. Unfortunately, you know, it doesn't always work like that.
Right.
You know. And it takes me back to, they go back to where they feel comfortable.
Right.
This is all I know. This is all I've seen. This is what my family expects from me. There's a young man that we helped out for quite a few years. He went to Topeka, to the CAT, to serve the time, was released, and he was given a scholarship to go to K-State University. Full ride.
Wow.
Full ride. Unfortunately, his family felt like, what? Do you think you're better than us now? Oh, look at you. You know? So he was already being put down and not believed in, because he, you know, that wasn't expected of him.
Right.
You're expected to go to prison, to I don't know, maybe rob or whatever else, but you
live a
not
life of
expected.
crime.
Yeah.
You're not expected to go to college.
You come from, well, you exemplify empirical evidence, pragmatical evidence, because you went through it as a young man.
Yeah.
And of course, through Christ for Youth,
Yeah.
you provide the Word of God.
Yeah,
What else do you
yeah.
provide that these kids can say? Because
Yeah.
if I'm a young man that had lived a life of crime,
Yeah.
and that's all that I know.
Right.
Of course, we can get into this conversation about, but Santiago, you came from a foreign country,
Yeah.
and your parents came from a foreign country,
Yeah.
and you guys made it.
Yeah.
What kind of impediment are these kids
Yeah.
facing? But that they cannot also survive in this country.
Right.
And they are born and raised. Many of them are born and raised here. But what is it that you are doing other than offer the Word of God? And know that the Word of God is not enough.
No,
because a lot of these kids, I want to hear about Christ.
No, a lot of it is honestly living the principles out, right? Like practically living them out.
Yes.
And so not giving up on them. But one of the best moments is when we can take young people to camp. We have Youth for Christ camp throughout the country, but there are times that we can just take young people to camp for a week, for just a few days, and for them to be out of their element, and then to detox from all the responsibilities they have. That they never can be a kid. They always have to hustle. They always have to figure out. They always have to handle the blended family dynamics of like, they didn't have a good stepdad like you did. A lot of them, they have to protect themselves all the time. So when they go to camp, a couple of days into camp, you start seeing their real side. And it's hard because they have these amazing mountaintop experiences. And then when they come home to reality, they're handed their phone back and they're handed their other items back, and then they sometimes relapse, right? But we still care for them too much to leave them there. But what I love is, and every success story it's not what they've done, it's how long we've been in a relationship. So 45 volunteers. It's the number of relationships that we have is what success is. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
And so it's not about, oh man, this kid went from a life of crime to a life of success. If there's no relationship with that young person, it has nothing to do with us. You know what I'm saying? And so we're all about making the community look good.
Can you tell me if what's the success rate in your program?
Yeah, so the success rate is that if they have a mentor, so the recidivism rates, right? They drop drastic. So we have seen that their kids are 60% more likely not to go to prison if they have a mentor that checks in on them. I wish it was 100%. I wish it was, but 60% is better than 90%, And so like what I mean, 90% the opposite direction, right? They're going back. So 60% of our kids are not going back to prison if they are matched with a mentor. But what I love about the story is that so many of them are connected with their children. And that is, for some of the boys, they weren't even thinking about staying connected, staying faithful in that relationship, just to keep that, they not even the child, right? Because so many of them, they've had, they know of their father, they don't have a relationship with their father. So those are kind of our best success stories, is to see young men and young women just parent a child together. That they might, live in separate places. They might even live together and not married. And I know that sounds controversial to some people that are listening, but we're saying we're trying to make sure that this young child is safe.
Yes.
And I appreciate what you said, that life is from womb to tomb. And we have to, as a even faith-based organization, understand that life is sacred no matter where they are in the spectrum. And so that's what I love, is seeing young fathers and young mothers be able to not argue in front of their child, right? To stay together because the child is that important. Maybe not get married. We hope. We haven't had that marriage yet. And maybe that's not the healthiest thing because they're so young. But man, that would be a dream, to be able to officiate the wedding and to know that maybe this generational cycle is broken.
You're giving them guidance.
Yes.
You're telling them, this is what we need to do to succeed.
Right.
They might not stay together.
Right.
But they might be able to co-parent.
That's right.
Together.
That's huge for a child. I don't know about you, but those listening, to have a divided family, you almost feel like it's your fault. And we don't want young children to feel like they're the fault.
Yes.
No, it's the choices of their parents, but this child had no choice. So let's give them the best. And so we have volunteers that have babysat to give the parents a break. We've even taken the children and provided diapers and wipes and necessities that they need, because we don't want the baby to feel, or even the young child to feel like they're a burden. You know what I'm saying? And so Youth for Christ, we go beyond just the relationship. We try to partner with like-minded organizations. And even some churches, what I mean some churches, it's pretty controversial what we're doing. Working with incarcerated youth and working with unwed teen mothers and fathers. And we are hoping that the faith community can see that that's what God's heart breaks for, is these underdogs,
I have a bunch of questions that I ask. But what is the age group of the youth?
11 to 19 is 11 to 19 is where we serve. We kind of focus on that age group.
Both male and female.
Both male and female.
Now, what are some of the, of course, these kids are going through incarceration. What are some of the major problems that these kids are facing?
You know what? Mental health is huge. Oh my gosh. So talking about just so many of them have the only attention they get is when they do something bad. And so they have this war between their ears. It's just mind games. They don't even know what voice is the real voice. They tell me this. And they don't even know the voice of God, because the fact of the matter is that they have so many voices that they're listening to any voice and feeding that. And so they are so confused. But mental health, especially during this pandemic, it has isolated them, and they have not been able to be in community. None of us should be isolated. That is the worst place for some of us can be. And isolated doesn't mean because you have a phone in front of you that you are in community. Community is like being in the same room with people that you know are safe.